Hello and welcome back to Unstuck and Effing Fabulous, the podcast for ambitious women ready to ditch doubt, get out of their own way, and create a life that feels bold, beautiful, and fully aligned. I am your host, Irene Lidvall, and I am going to deliver strategic feminine power, including identity and decision making. So, today we are going to talk about a very tender and honest conversation. And for many of you, it might feel deeply personal because we are talking about loss. Not the kind that always comes with loud endings and dramatic exits, but the quiet kind. The kind where something or someone slowly stops fitting in your life, where the energy shifts dramatically and it just hits you. This is not working anymore. Because what once felt aligned now all of a sudden feels really heavy and it drags you down. And it's a big decision to create a loss or to get rid of a friend or a relationship. But today I want to offer you a reframe that might just change everything for you. Because, listen to this, not every loss is a rejection. Sometimes it's protection. If you are a woman over 40, I'm sure you have lived enough life to know this truth in your bones, even if you haven't fully put words to it yet. You have outgrown things, you have evolved, and you have seen behind the curtains because you are not 20 anymore. And with that comes a different kind of clarity. It's a more quiet power, and sometimes that power asks you to let go. Let me share something very personal with you. I recently let go of a friendship that had been part of my life for 15 years. Yeah, I know, 15 years. That's not casual. That's not surface level. That's what I call history with memories and shared chapters. Because we did share a lot and we had a routine. We talked every day, absolutely every day. And it became sort of what I did. I felt like somebody cut off my arm when I couldn't call her anymore, or I didn't want to call her anymore. So walking away from that, I wouldn't say it was dramatic because there were no explosion. There were no big confrontation, just a huge knowing this is not working anymore. It was a slow, undeniable awareness that something had shifted between us. And that version of me who once belonged in that dynamic no longer existed. And here's the truth that I had to sit with. Just because something has lasted a long time doesn't mean it's meant to last forever. And that's really hard to comprehend because we are taught to value longevity. We're taught that staying equals loyalty, that enduring equals strength. But what if staying too long is actually a form of self-abandonment? What if growth requires release? When your circle shrinks, do you know what happens? Your focus sharpens. Let that land, hey? Because it's easy to interpret loss as failure. And I think we as women, we do take that on board, It does feel like we have failed. But do you know what? It's not. You have to stop to think, did I do something wrong? Could I have fixed this? Why is this happening to me? So ask better questions. What if this is making space for something better? Or say, what is this making space for? Because every time something falls away, something else becomes visible. It's the same with when you clean out your closet. You make room for new and better. So when that noise quiets, you hear yourself more clearly. When the room empties, you truly see what matters. And that, my friend, is where the power lays. There's a concept I want you to hold on to today. The concept is called pruning. In nature, pruning is essential. You don't cut something back because it's failing. You cut it back so it can grow stronger, healthier, more aligned, more intentional. And sometimes in life, you are the one being pruned with friendships, habits, identities, roles you carried for decades. They don't always leave because something went wrong. Sometimes they leave because something is about to go very right. So when I let go of my friendship, I didn't feel immediate relief. Well, no. Let's be honest about that. I felt grief. I felt nostalgia. I questioned myself. I revisited the memories because endings, even the right ones, still hurts. Because who wants to hurt anybody? I don't. Deliberately don't want to hurt anyone. And I think this is where so many women get stuck. We assume that if it hurts, it must be wrong. But that's not true. Pain is not always a warning. Sometimes it's a transition. Smaller rooms create stronger foundations. Now, I love that idea because we often chase expansion without understanding what is required. Well, we want more, right? We want more success, more alignment, clarity, and more peace. But you know what? Expansion without structure does collapse. And sometimes life gently, or not so gently, moves you into a smaller space. So you can build something that actually lasts. So you can hear yourself think. So you can reconnect with your standards. So you can remember who you are without influence. So let's talk about clarity. Because clarity doesn't come from adding more. It comes from removing what doesn't belong. And that is what is happening in this fire horse here. It's actually brutally removing what doesn't belong anymore. And when your world gets quieter, when your circle gets smaller, you start to notice things you couldn't see before. So you notice your own energy and you notice your boundaries. Hopefully you have some. You notice what feels clean and what feels off. And here's where it gets so powerful. You stop negotiating with what you already know. For many women over 40, this is the era where everything shifts because you no longer want to perform. You no longer need to prove anything, and you no longer tolerate things that just keeps the peace. You've done that already. Now what? You choose differently, not louder, not more aggressively, but so much more precise. Sometimes you don't need a bigger reason to let something go. You don't need betrayal. You don't need a dramatic story. And sometimes the reason is simple. This no longer feels right for me, and that is enough. Letting go of that 15-year-old friendship taught me something really profound. Peace of mind is higher standard than history. Just because you share the past doesn't mean you're aligned for the future. And holding on to something out of loyalty that was something past in the past, and it didn't transfer into my future. It didn't fit. Because if you do, it can quietly block what's trying to come in. And you don't want to have that happen because growth, expansion always follows separation. Maybe not instantly, because you know what, this is really important, and I want you to really listen to this, because there is a space in between, a space that feels unfamiliar, a space where things are quieter, slower, and more introspective. And this is the this is the part most people rush through. They try to fill it. They try to fix it, distract from it. But this space, this is where you recalibrate. This is where you decide, who am I now? What do I value now? And what do I no longer tolerate? And from that place, you build again, but differently this time, with intention, with discernment, and with self-respect. So it's the same with your closet. When you clean out your closet, you don't run out and buy a whole new wardrobe to fill the gap. You actually wait and you fill it maybe with a little capsule that would fit everything else that's in there. But you take your time. And that's what this is all about as well. So I want to speak directly to you listening right now, the you who knows you have outgrown something, the you who feels the shift, the you who is afraid to act on it, the you who's thinking, what if I regret this? What if I'm being too harsh? What if I end up alone? So let me gently challenge all of this. What if staying cost you more? What do they say? The longer you stay on the train, the more it's going to cost you to get back. So what if staying slowly erodes your confidence? It takes away your clarity and it robs you of yourself. What if the real risk isn't leaving? It's staying where you no longer belong. So I want you to trust the pruning, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it asks you to walk away from something familiar. Because your life is not designed to stay the same. Nothing is designed to stay the same unless you are a table or a fixture. And you are not. You're a human being. You are not meant to stay the same. And here's the beautiful part. What is aligned will meet you on the other side. Not in the same form, not in the same way, but in a way that reflects who you are now, who you are becoming, not who you used to be. When your circle shrinks, it's not a loss of connection. It's refinement. You stop having many service level interactions and start having fewer, deeper, more meaningful ones. You stop explaining yourself and you start being understood. You stop performing and you start being seen. And that's worth everything. So let's come back to this idea one more time. Not every loss is a rejection. Sometimes it is protection. Protection from what, you might ask? I would say from misalignment, from staying too small, from repeating patterns that no longer serve you. And if you are in a season of letting go, I want you to hold this perspective. You are not losing. You are refining. You are not being rejected. You are being redirected. You are not ending. You are evolving. And yes, it might feel lonely at times, but loneliness in alignment is far more powerful than connection in misalignment. So take a breath, honor what was, release what's no longer is, and trust what is becoming. Because the woman you are stepping into requires a different environment, a different standard, and a different circle. And you know what? She knows that she is worth it. So thank you for being here today. And if this has resonated with you, take a moment and sit with it. Journal on it, reflect on it, and most importantly, trust yourself. And I will see you in the next episode. And this was the end of episode number 53. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon.